Renewal is the principle and the process that empowers us to move on an upward spiral of growth and change, of continuous improvement. Stephen R. Covey. I remember reading those words at a point in my life when I desperately needed them. I was in my late 20s, building a career and working endless hours. My drive to succeed was strong, but somewhere along the way I had lost my balance. I would wake up exhausted, rush to work, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, and come home late to collapse into bed. Week after week, I pushed myself thinking I was being productive. But in truth, I was running on fumes. My energy was depleted, my creativity was dried up, and my relationships were strained. I felt stuck and empty, as if I was sawing away at a great tree of goals with a dull blade. It was around this time that I discovered Stephen Covey's Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw. The phrase itself puzzled me at first. Sharpen the saw? What did that have to do with my life? As I read Covey's explanation, an image formed in my mind. A lumberjack hacking away tirelessly at a tree with a blunted saw. In Covey's book, he shares a little parable about just such a man. The man had been laboring for hours, drenched in sweat, sawing and sawing with diminishing results. When a passerby suggests taking a break to sharpen his tool, the man snaps. "I don't have time to sharpen the saw," he says. "I'm too busy sawing." That line hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized I was that lumberjack in my own life, working frantically, too busy to pause, all while my effectiveness slowly wore down. Covey defines sharpening the saw as taking the time to renew and improve ourselves so we can keep cutting effectively. Sharpen the saw means preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, you. It means having a balanced program for self-renewal in the 4 areas of your life: physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. When I read that, I had to stop and reflect. The greatest asset I have is me. In all my striving, I had never truly considered that I am my own most important tool, my body, mind, heart, and spirit. I'd been treating myself like an unlimited resource, something I could just push and push without maintenance. Covey's words were a wake-up call. If I wanted to keep achieving, I needed to invest in maintaining and upgrading myself regularly in a balanced way. Looking at my life through this new lens, I saw how badly I had neglected each of those 4 dimensions. Physically, I was run down, surviving on junk food, never exercising, sleeping just a few hours a night. Mentally, I had stopped reading or learning anything new outside of work. My once curious mind felt dull and mechanical. Socially and emotionally, I was isolated, barely seeing friends and irritable with my loved ones. My emotional reservoir completely drained. Spiritually, I had lost touch with any sense of deeper purpose or peace. There was no quiet time for reflection, no prayer or meditation, nothing that nurtured my soul. Covey warned that if we don't take time for renewal, the body becomes weak, the mind mechanical, the emotions raw, the spirit insensitive, and the person selfish. Reading that line sent chills through me because it described me exactly. I was weak and burned out, going through motions like a mindless machine, quick to anger and frustration, and so inwardly focused on my stress that I had become self-centered without realizing it. In Covey's words, without renewal, I had become a very poor version of myself. Not a pretty picture indeed. Something had to change. I made a quiet vow to myself. I would stop sawing and start sharpening. I didn't expect it to be easy. In fact, it felt counterintuitive and almost indulgent to step back from my workload for me time. But I knew that if I kept going as I had been, I'd saw right through my health, my happiness, and maybe even my future. So gradually, I began integrating daily renewal into my life. I started small. In the mornings, instead of rolling out of bed and checking emails in a dull haze, I began waking up a bit earlier to move my body. Some days I went for a short jog in the neighborhood. Other days I did a gentle stretch or yoga routine to get my blood flowing. At first my muscles protested. I was embarrassingly out of shape. But week by week, I grew stronger. I started to feel an awakening of energy that I hadn't felt in years. That sluggish cloud in my brain would begin to lift after a good run or workout, and I'd arrive at work refreshed rather than drained. Nurturing my physical well-being was just the beginning. I also realized I needed to sharpen my mind. I dusted off books that had been sitting untouched on my shelf. Inspirational books, novels, even Covey's own 7 Habits book again, and committed to reading a little each day. Instead of mindlessly scrolling on my phone at night, I read or I journaled, reflecting on what I learned each day. It was astonishing how quickly my mental acuity began to return. New ideas sparked again. I found myself thinking more creatively at work because I was feeding my mind with new knowledge and perspectives. I even picked up a new hobby, learning to play the guitar, which brought both mental challenge and joy. In essence, I was exercising my mind, and it started to become sharper and more flexible, much like a blade being honed. The third area, the social-emotional dimension, what Covey sometimes calls the heart, was harder for me precisely because I had been so withdrawn. I made a deliberate effort to reconnect with the people I cared about. I began scheduling regular dinners with my family, even if it was just once a week. I reached out to friends I'd lost touch with, grabbing a coffee or simply calling to ask how they'd been. Initially, I worried that these meetups and conversations were taking time away from productive work, but I soon discovered they were fuel. Talking with a close friend for an hour left me feeling uplifted and supported in a way that working an extra hour never did. I also learned to be more present and empathetic, really listening to my wife's and colleagues' concerns instead of brushing them off. By investing in my relationships, I felt my emotional resilience growing. I laughed more. I was kinder to others and to myself. The stress that used to send me into a panic now felt easier to handle because I knew I wasn't alone. I had a network of support and a healthier emotional state. In short, I was healing and strengthening my heart. Finally, I turned attention to the spiritual dimension, the soul, the inner self. This one can sound abstract, but to me it meant reconnecting with my core values and finding inner calm. I started spending a few minutes each day in quiet reflection, something I had never made time for before. Sometimes I would sit in silence with my morning coffee and just watch the sunrise, letting myself be present. Other times I would write in a journal about what I was grateful for that day, or read a passage of something uplifting or sacred. I even tried meditation and breathing exercises, despite being a complete novice, just to center my racing thoughts. Over time, these small acts of spiritual renewal brought a profound sense of peace and groundedness. I remembered why I was working so hard, not just for accolades or money, but to create a good life for my family, to grow as a person, to contribute something meaningful to the world. That sense of purpose had been buried under my fatigue and stress. Now it returned, shining like a beacon. Nurturing my spirit helped me align my daily actions with my deeper principles and beliefs. It gave me a feeling of harmony and meaning that had been missing from my grind. As the weeks and months passed, these practices, exercising my body, challenging my mind, connecting with my heart, and nourishing my spirit, slowly solidified into habitual parts of my routine. They were no longer luxuries or things I'd get to if I had time. They became non-negotiable, a vital part of each day. And the effects on my life have been nothing short of transformative. I had expected to feel somewhat better, but I was stunned by how much sharpening my saw improved every facet of my being. Physically, I have more energy now in my 30s than I ever did in my 20s. I wake up feeling alive, and I rarely get sick the way I used to when I was run down. Mentally, I'm more focused and creative. New solutions and insights seem to come to me naturally now that my brain isn't perpetually fried. Emotionally, I feel more balanced and positive. I meet challenges with patience and optimism instead of frustration. And spiritually, I carry a quiet confidence and peace within me that keeps me steady even when life gets chaotic. What's truly amazing is how these dimensions are interconnected. Improving one aspect of myself gave me momentum in the others, a fact Covey emphasizes and I found to be true. Taking time to exercise, physical, would put me in a better mood, emotional, to spend quality time with my family. Reading a good book, mental, would inspire me and lift my spirits, spiritual. Everything is, as Covey would say, highly interrelated. By renewing all four parts of myself, I was no longer operating on an empty tank. Instead, I was like a well-oiled, finely sharpened instrument, ready to tackle my work and my goals with vigor and clear purpose. Far from slowing me down, sharpening the saw made me far more effective. I started getting more done in less time at work because I was energized and focused. My boss noticed the change. I was proactive and full of fresh ideas again. My friends noticed I was more present and upbeat. Most importantly, I noticed that life didn't feel like a grind anymore. Challenges that used to send me into a tailspin became manageable puzzles I could handle with a calm mind. Covey was right. Renewal had increased my capacity to handle life's challenges and to produce better results. Now, sharpening the saw is a lifelong habit for me, a continuous upward spiral of growth. I understand now what Covey meant when he said renewal empowers us to keep moving upward in life. Each day of self-renewal isn't just about that day. It builds on itself, compounding into true personal growth over time. I'm still the same person, with the same 24 hours in a day, but I feel like I've upgraded the engine that powers me. I've learned that balance is key. Neglecting any one of the four areas leaves me a little off kilter. So I keep a gentle watch on myself now. If I start to feel irritable or burn out, I pause and ask, have I been keeping up my exercise? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I engaging with my loved ones, feeding my mind, staying true to my values? Living habit 7 means making sure I never get too busy driving forward to refill my own tank. It's not always perfect. I still have busy weeks where I slip up and start to feel that dullness creeping back. But now I recognize the signs and I know how to course correct by returning to this habit of renewal. My story's not unique. We live in a fast-paced world that often glorifies burning the candle at both ends. Young adults, entrepreneurs, ambitious professionals, so many of us fall into the trap of believing that relentless work is the only way to succeed. We neglect our health, postpone our happiness, and ignore warning signs of burnout, telling ourselves we'll rest on later. If you find yourself in that cycle, I invite you to learn from my experience and Covey's wisdom. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sharpened your saw? Are you constantly sawing away at your life, working, hustling, pushing, while growing duller and less effective? If so, consider this your gentle reminder to pause and rethink. Covey teaches that you are your own greatest asset in life. Your body that carries you, your mind that guides you, your heart that connects you with others, and your spirit that gives you purpose. These are the tools by which you achieve everything else. If you don't take care of them, you risk losing your effectiveness and your joy. As Covey said, preserving and enhancing the greatest asset you have, you, is central to staying effective. So today, give yourself permission to invest in your own renewal. It might feel strange at first to step away from your work or routine for something seemingly unproductive. But remember that this is not a break from success. It's an integral part of success. Go for that run or walk outside. Spend an hour unplugged with a good book or journaling your thoughts. Call a friend or play with your kids and give them your full attention. Sit quietly and watch the clouds or pray or listen to your favorite music. Whatever recharges you, make time for it. Sharpen your saw. Do it daily or as often as you can, even in small ways. Tiny regular renewals are better than rare big ones. Over time, you'll notice the difference. You'll feel more alive, focused, and capable. You'll likely find, as I did, that you can handle stresses that used to overwhelm you, and you'll approach your goals with newfound clarity and enthusiasm. In the end, Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, is about choosing a sustainable, enriched life over a burnout-driven life. It's about continually improving yourself to better meet the challenges and opportunities around you. Covey called it the habit that makes all the other habits possible, and now I truly see why. By keeping myself sharpened, I'm better at everything else I do. My story began with burnout, but it transformed into one of balance and growth when I embraced this habit, and yours can too. No matter how busy or behind you feel, you can start with a single act of renewal today. Take that time, protect it, make it a habit. Sharpen your saw and watch as you not only achieve more, but also enjoy your journey a great deal more. This is my challenge and heartfelt encouragement to you. Your future self, healthier, happier, more effective, will thank you for it. Now, whenever I face a heavy workload or a daunting project, I remember the lesson I learned from Stephen Covey. Never become too busy sawing to take time to sharpen the saw. And with a clear mind, a healthy body, a joyful heart, and a nourished spirit, I step forward to tackle whatever comes next. Calm, wise, and inspired, ready to keep climbing that upward spiral of continuous improvement.